RK's Guyana Free Media presents for human development and national development this message.
Well, yes, a very good morning, good afternoon, good day, assalamu alaikum, shalom alaikum, namaskar, namaste, about the Creator, the Divine in you. I greet you with peace and blessings of God Almighty and a truly wonderful, wonderful day, morning, night, evening, as the case may be, friends and families around the world. Your friend, your brother, Haji Roshan Khan here with another in the series of Elections Update 2020, brought to you with the compliments of RK's Guyana Free Media. Now these days, as you're aware, I've been doing quite a lot of readings and sometimes some expose or opinions and views on the readings as to important matters that we are commenting and reading on. My point I would like to start with today is to be or not to be, to do or not to do. Will we ever overcome and be great, or will we be stymied and stuck in the dirt for all times, albeit because of our political shenanigans and manipulations by political desperados in conspiratorial conspiracies of hate and deceit, disrespectful law and order, and the powerhouses of the country, the people. Because everything is made possible only because of the people. And when people have this power, this grandiose mental madness that takes them over because they think they have been chosen by the people to lead, that it's like a tribal madness, or you become an emperor or a king beyond the rule of law, and you can do what you want and say what you want. So I will be going to do some readings today with some light commentary and maybe 3 readings to give you a chance who are not having newspapers, you who like to listen to the voice with some drama and so on, and those of you who are overseas and can only use this medium for understanding what is really taking place in this great and beautiful, magnificent homeland that we call Guyana. The readings are taken from various newspapers of Guyana, dearest friends and families in Guyana and around the world. government official calls on Granger to reverse decision blocking Carter Center's return. This is on Facebook all over the world, on YouTube, in all the printed newspapers, and so forth and so forth. And so I will, at this juncture, like to read from May 18, 2020, today, when this post was established. And I go, former Minister of State Joseph Harmon, in conversation with Michael Grant, Assistant Deputy Minister of the Americas in the Canadian Ministry of Global Affairs, in a social media post on Sunday, Assistant Deputy Minister of the Americas of Global Affairs Canada, Michael Grant, expressed concerns over the decision taken by the David Granger-led caretaker administration not to allow the return of the Carter Center to observe the ongoing national count or recount of March 2nd votes. The top Canadian government official has urged the UPNO AFC government reverse the decision and give the necessary clearance for the Carter Center to return. It is very concerning that Guyana has denied travel by the Carter Center to observe the recount. Transparency is needed. President David Granger should reverse this decision, the Canadian minister tweeted. This comes days after Canadian High Commissioner to Guyana, Lillian Chatterjee, denounced the decision, questioning the motive behind it. She said in a tweet Friday night that despite ties since the 1990s, Guyana has refused the Carter Center's return, although they will comply with the same COVID-19 requirements as the CARICOM team did. And we move on. Guyana Elections Commission, GCOM, invited Carter Center to return. Why doesn't government want them back? She questioned. The Carter Center was hoping to return to Guyana for the national recount to complete its electoral observation duties. Friends and families, we have to understand that the accreditation to observe by the Carter Center has not been removed. But there is definitely a political conspiracy to want to keep them out because, obviously, to my opinion, and most of the people in Guyana and around the world, there are some plans not to want them here because their word is taken around the world. And there are sinister motives and plans in place according to the inference of information on this article here. The Carter Center was hoping to return to Guyana for a national recount to complete its electoral observation duties. However, with Guyana's borders, including its international airports, closed due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the Carter Center effort to join an empty relief flight in Miami that was heading to Guyana repatriate U.S. citizens earlier this month. Both the Carter Center and the U.S. Embassy in Georgetown subsequently made a second request for the observers along with advisors from the International Republican Institute to return to Guyana. But this too was denied, despite Guyana having permitted 6 to 8 flights to all giant ExxonMobil to bring in workers from across the world. A commentary. So, friends and family, we can see something sinister is at hand by a group of people, and I do not think it's President David Arthur Granger necessarily, but there's a team, and maybe he's part of the team, I would not know. Well, why would you invite people and you would not want them to come and witness this fantastic moment in history of a recount, which after 2 months, little Guyana, a Lilliputian in world affairs, a Lilliputian, a speck amongst countries in the world, a dust, one bit of dust that you cannot see sometimes with your naked eye, is putting the whole world in torpor, confusion, pain, and shame because of a set of people that want to accepting reality. In a letter on Friday, caretaker Foreign Affairs Minister Dr. Karen Cummings informed the US ambassador that it may not be possible for the Carter Center and the IRI advisor to participate in the overseeing of the recount of the votes cast on 2nd March 2020 general and regional elections, which, as you're aware, has already commenced. In fact, it was reiterated by President Granger on Sunday during a brief agreement with the media, and I read it again. In fact, this was reiterated by President Granger on Sunday during a brief engagement with the media at the Arthur Chung Conference Center. End of that report, dearest friends and families around the world. Now we go on to another one. Papers, social media, newscasts, and so on, all over the world. Private Sector Commission perturbed at statements by Patterson and Alexander. Alexander is a GCOM commissioner who sometimes speaks, and when he speaks, it's as if he's speaking for the commission and mislead people. But then he explained later on, when I was questioning him on Facebook, if I want to shut him up, he asked. It was established that he is speaking as a commissioner, as other commissioners speak, and not necessarily for the commission. So when we see any presentation by Mr. Vincent Alexander, gentleman ordinarily out of politics that I love and respect very much, out of politics, but when he make any comments about GCOM, we must know it is not GCOM's position, but it is his personal viewpoint. PSC perturbed. The Private Sector Commission, PSC are extremely perturbed at the most recent statements reported in the media attributed to the GCOM's Commissioner Vincent Alexander and AFC's General Secretary David Patterson, who is the acting caretaker minister for the Ministry of Public Infrastructure with regard to the ongoing national recount of the general and regional elections. Both Patterson and Alexander's statements suggest that instead of the conclusive result of the recount being accepted by GCOM as the final declaration of the elections for the swearing in of the new president and a new government, the Commission should accept the declaration of the Chief Elections Officer based on the declaration of the returning officer for District 4, which is currently held in abeyance by the gazetted order for national recount. Their pronouncements are in direct contravention to the commitment President David Arthur Granger gave to the nation that he will accept the results of the recount as the final declaration of the 2020 elections. Private Sector Commission, in its capacity as an accredited observer, along with other local and international accredited observers and members of the diplomatic community, are presently observing the recount conducted by GCOM in good faith, on the clear understanding that the result of the recount will be recognized by GCOM for the purpose of the election of a new government resulting from the elections conducted on 2nd March 2020, and I'm adding over 2 months ago, which is history in the world, including barbaric countries in certain parts of Europe and in Africa. The Private Sector Commission now calls upon the chairman of GCOM to immediately clarify GCOM's position in this matter. The PSC calls upon the chairman of GCOM to confirm as to whether the result of the national recount being currently conducted by GCOM will be accepted by GCOM as the final and unqualified result of the general and regional elections held on 2nd March 2020 for the purpose of electing the government of Guyana. And this is the third reading, my friends and families, that pertains to these election-related articles in the various newspapers and also on the internet news. This is RAMJATTAN admits PPP had its truth about MINGO, says coalition bluffed supporters by editor on May 16, 2020, and is in all the newspapers. Friends and families, I want to take the opportunity quickly to remind you to to please sanitize. It's a duty all Guyanese should have, to know, and I keep on doing it, I'm not tired of teaching, to clean between the fingers and the crevices in between, and the thumb. People normally forget the thumb. Pull your rings ahead, put it in between, at least 15-20 minutes, or 20 seconds, I beg your pardon, 15-20 seconds. And remember to wear your face mask, whatever it is, better than nothing. This was made by our company for our workers. And also Environ, very cheap, produced by our friends at Demerara Distillers Limited. We encourage you to use it, and spray it, use it everywhere possible. And it is quite cheap. It's $970, $940. At proper places up to $1,200, and some terrible drugstore pharmacies are selling it for $1,800, which is a national disgrace and a shame, and they need to be prosecuted. One of them is on Middle and East Street. Ladies and gentlemen, RAMJATTAN admits its truth about MINGO, and admit that the coalition bluff supporters. Now, in the beginning, when RAMJATTAN had made some strange accusation and has damaged himself tremendously by saying that there were Russians in the country, and they were speaking in Russian to Baron Jack Dale. And I don't know why these people are so terrified of Jack Dale. I would advise the government spokesperson to stop talking about Jack Dale a little bit, because you're making the man look like he's a god. And he's just an ordinary human being who knows governance, who understands what's going on politically and politics, and he's a great guy. So why are you all trying to demonize this guy when the world has given him 5 doctorates and the world has honored him as the champion of the earth, and people are looking at him as a specialist in financial and budgetary matters internationally? You know, stop this. I'm not trying to blow his head too, but stop trying to demonize the guy, because in a way, the things you say evil about other people, you're putting it on yourself. If you're demonizing another man, in reality, you're demonizing yourself, because out of your own mouth come forth your existence and your reality, and what you put out is what your mind reads that you want. But if you notice, RAMJATTAN recently has been coming out somewhat clean. He's trying to disguise it. To my opinion, he knows that they have lost the election. And from the SOPs and all that's going on, it is known that the election is lost. And so he's making certain comments, I think, to try to whitewash himself. And that is his right as a human being, to try to avoid sanctions. Because if sanctions is to come, it will hit all of them. He is one of them as well. And I think he's making this kind of blurred statements to try to protect himself from sanctions like these that he's saying, which are really the truth. But yet in between, he will make some statement to protect himself in cabinet if they should think, or if they should take power, that his people will not be annoyed and then try to sideline him. And this is the view of yours truly, personally, as I see things. This was on May 16, 2020, by the editor. Coalition leader Kemraj RAMJATTAN Saturday described the PPP as the most well-oiled elections machinery in the Caribbean, and accused the party of throwing red meat at their supporters to make them feel comfortable about the victory. But he said that's what the coalition has also been doing. In other words, commentary that this most well-oiled machinery, according to RAMJATTAN, best in the Caribbean, has been throwing red meat to its people to get them to cling to the party about a victory that they've won. But he said, and here's where I'm trying to say that he's trying to create a balance. That's what the coalition has been doing. But he's not saying wrongfully, because they're throwing red meat at their followers, and when the time comes that these people mentally believe that they have won an election, and especially those few that might be appreciative of of misdemeanors and misbehavior, such as break and enter and robbery and wanted to loot and so forth, it's not a good thing. So my advice to the government, President David Arthur Granger and his ministers and his litany of ministers, to stop telling people that you all have won the election. That is my advice to you all. Or things might happen that you could be held responsible and could be held legally responsible if things go out of hand because you have been telling your people wrong things. Tell them to wait and see what happens. There was no contest yet at the comm center where I was at the Ashman's building, and they were telling people we have won this election. Constantly. Oh, we have won these elections. Back to the article. But even though accusing the PPP of bluffing, he admitted that the PPP had its truth about MINGO, I repeat. But even though accusing the PPP of bluffing, he, RAMJATTAN, admitted that the PPP had its truth about MINGO. Referring to claimant MINGO, the returning officer for District 4, who the High Court ruled breached the electoral laws in making a declaration for the district. And I go back again, I read that piece again for emphasis, ladies and gentlemen. This is coming from the mouth of RAMJATTAN, who is slated, if the APNU takes government, to be the Prime Minister, and has actually decimated the AFC because of this ambition and caused division and distrust amongst their own puny little party at this time. Obviously displaying grave jealousy of Moses Nagamutu, wanting, to my opinion, the speaker opinion, to listen to the sound of the sirens. Some of these guys in political powerhouses love the sound of the sirens. When it blare and the police walking up to them and the security team to open their doors, they feel like a grandiose god. Back to the article. The recount has been showing a pattern that the figures used by MINGO to make the declaration were inflated to give the coalition a victory. The PPP has claimed it won the elections by more than 15,000 votes and has published the statements of poll from District 4 to show this. The coalition has refused to publish the very copies of SOPS that it has received from the election staff at polling places in the district. So why can the PPP, ladies and gentlemen, friends and families, be so sure that they have won? And I know because I was at several Compton stations and I saw many of them close. At the end of the poll, an SOP is posted out of the location for all to see what the results were. And then each party agent, comprising mostly the APNU and the AFC, have copies, because in some places the other smaller parties could not have fielded agents. But they got copies from, all of them, from the PPPC, who has been supporting them. The APNU did not want to give any one of them, and has actually caused disrespect from among the smaller parties. So the smaller parties are clinging more and cooperating with the PPPC as a one body, one soul philosophy mentality. Because they receive from election staff at the polling places in the district, and it's questionable, why is it this great party, the People's National Congress, that I have many respects for, and their coalition are afraid of showing the SOPs when it is already known. And he's speaking in, and I can understand that. He says that RAMJATTAN, he understands that. In politics, I want to say we too do a thing or two like that for our party base. But what we want here now, in this recount process, the entire truth to come out. Entire truth. So he is saying we too do a thing or two, when we know in reality that they do more than the other, or the victor, so far as we know, in the count and the recount process and the SOPs. The entire truth to come out. Entire truth. Why? And he's answering. Because they had gone through to MINGO and this and that. And listen to the language, for an exposed, supposedly senior lawyer. And I wonder why, see that he was a minister, he was a part of the APNO AFC coalition. They didn't give him, even by sorrow or pity, a senior council status. The president and the powers that be that decide these things obviously had their reasons. And the language, the way he speaks, because they had one truth about MINGO and this and that, and whatever it is, good. But there are other truths that are very much fundamental, and it is important, RAMJATTAN declared. He was speaking during an interview program by the coalition hosted outside the National Aquatic Centre, which according to RAMJATTAN, the coalition has taken over as its centre. The other truths he referred to was the coalition's mounting claims that persons who were supposed to be dead or out of the country were marked off on the electoral list as having voted in the March 2nd general and regional elections. He said that findings are stunning, but the coalition will have to prove it. He said, the findings are stunning, but that the coalition will have to prove it. I repeat, listen carefully, ladies and gentlemen. The findings are stunning, but the coalition will have to prove it. What does that say? They have no evidence. This is all red meat they're throwing to their people, and to create structure of slotishness in the count and confusion, because they have to prove it, and so far they have proven nothing except to say this person was out of the country, that one was out of the country. And we have seen, even exposed on Facebook and the media, that people were there, they are there, and they're showing the ID card, this is them, and that they voted. So they have to prove it. They have a lot to prove. He stayed clear of saying what happened in District 4, but said he wanted observers to discern what was happening in District 2, 3, 5, and 6. And he and his party had quite a number of votes in the 2015 elections in those regions, in particular Region 6, and then they were shackled and released of votes by the people of particularly Region 6. And we go on. And he's saying there might have been wrongdoings. There might have been, careful with the words, ladies and gentlemen, they're putting wool in our eyes, and he can't help it because he's trying to cleanse himself in the event sanctions are coming. So he wants to show that he has an ability of trying to be fair somewhat and creating doubt somewhat even under their own party. There might have been wrongdoings. We'll have to prove it, of course. RAMJATTAN stated there might have been wrongdoings. We'll have to prove it, of course. RAMJATTAN stated. He said the coalition was getting evidence to prove its case. But I saw several acting ministers, 2 ladies in particular, 3 ladies in particular, ministers, are saying it costs $300 to get a death certificate, and we can go and get a death certificate. But it is they who are making these accusations. They should have had the death certificates in their hand. Don't expect the reporter to go and pay the $300 and repeating it one after the other of the 3 female ministers that I generally like and actually love out of politics. They should have it prepared. They should have the migration or immigration information ready and prepared. Don't keep throwing this red, dangerous, deadly meat that could turn and erupt into violence and hate when people have some kind of a misunderstanding in the head because of the seeds being planted in the head. He said the coalition was getting evidence to prove it. The coalition has already been accused of using its advantage in power to manipulate and use public records for the elections. Now, I must be fair. Every government, the PPPC is not without this. They, in their time, have used the media and certain powers that you have when you're in government. So I would not see anything big in that. But yes, they are using it, and also the previous government did it as well. And the previous one to that, and the previous one to that. And that is a reality of political life, not only in Guyana, but around the world. RAMJATTAN's interview, listen to this, ladies and gentlemen. RAMJATTAN's interview was abruptly cut during the live broadcast on the coalition Facebook page. Take that for a minute. Take your breath. Those of you not fasting, take a glass of water. Breathe. RAMJATTAN's interview was abruptly cut during the live broadcast on the coalition's Facebook page. Friends and families, it is my pleasure to have presented you this reading and some commentary for peace and goodwill and understanding and love and righteous behavior by government and opposition, where we must learn to enhance our people to respect each other, to end ethnic strife and manipulation therewith, with hidden words and agendas by some political people who want power and to remain in power and more power and get into power. Your friend, your brother, me, Haji, Brother Roshan saying thank you and farewell, friends, and thank you again for tuning in and supporting it and sharing my messages around the world to making it go viral. We are on YouTube, we are on Facebook. Peace and blessings of God be with one and all, dear Guyana and friends and families around the world. Farewell, friends.
Thy sea-washed, sun-kissed strand, or down upon the borders, looking out upon the deep, the great